Let's do it. Let's come out. Come out and play. Good evening, good evening. You guys know me, I'm Ted Santos, and I am your host of YouTube and Chill. It is Friday. On Fridays, what we like to do. We like to talk about relationships from the most intimate perspectives possible. And have a little sex going on with that. Always good to talk about sex. Who doesn't like sex, right? So I am asking a question. Perhaps many questions tonight. And one is, do women want to be dominated in and out of bed? So, I always love doing research, so I had to research this topic so I wouldn't just come out here and be sort of pontificating some Ted Santos ideals, philosophies, Santos-isms. So I did some research, and I found some interesting things. So we're going to get into this, and we're going to get into it with some evidence, some support, some perspectives from the professionals. Some are conclusive, some are inconclusive, but there's a lot of evidence around this topic of whether or not women really do want to be dominated. And we are going to talk about whether the ladies want to be dominated. See, you guys, a couple of weeks ago, I did this show about, are women the same all over the world? And one of the things you heard women saying in China and Brazil and all over the place, they want men who are going to pay for things. They want chivalry. They want a gentleman. Is that what women really want? Now, I'm not saying, man, I'm going to contradict myself. I'm not saying they necessarily want a caveman, but they surely do like Tarzan, right? They like him swinging from the tree and holding her in the other arm. They do like Tarzan. Women love Tarzan. And for all you guys who don't like when I say me man, you woman, say it the right way. Own it. Own it. And you'd be surprised how many women have moisture building up. The moisture just builds up. So, as much as women say they want the chivalrous guy, somehow in the bedroom, they want a different kind of guy. What's going on? Yeah, exactly. So, in some ways, maybe what women are saying they want is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I had a woman say to me she wants a guy who he knows what to do in a boardroom and he knows what to do in an alleyway. She wanted a man who was polished in the boardroom and a freak in the bedroom. Those were her words. Well-educated woman, very attractive. And she said she liked a guy who had a little thug in him. I don't think she was raised for that. Very middle class. Almost on the uppity side. So women are getting all these mixed messages about what they're supposed to want. And so feminism has been shoved down their throats, man. Didn't even ask if they wanted it. And so now women are just parroting what they heard the feminists tell them to say. And the feminists have said men are horrible. They're going to control you. They'll make you change your last name. They're going to put you in prison. You'll be in a bedroom and in the kitchen and you'll do nothing else. You'll be locked in the house. And women have been terrified of this. Now they're terrified of men. And we're beasts. We're animals. Well, technically we are. And really, so many women want that from us. They want the beast. Why do you think they keep choosing the thug and the bad boy, regardless of race? Women loved Al Capone. What was that guy? Ted Bundy, who was killing women. He married a woman in jail. Like, we can go down a list of guys who were your official bad boys. And I know there's a mental illness called hybristophilia. What I'm getting at is, do women really want this gentleman, chivalrous guy? Is that what they really want? Or do they want a guy who really knows how to handle himself? So I read some interesting things. Very interesting. And I think you are going to find them just as interesting. And I'd like to, as I always do, share this with you. So if you haven't shared this video, share it. If you haven't smashed that like button, that thumbs up, smash it. If you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe. Now, let me share something with you here. I have a few things I want to share, and I'm sort of going to build a case progressively. So I'm going to give you the first one. This is kind of in some ways, easing our foot into it. So, Exhibit A. I am going to show you Exhibit A here. And as you see, it's from, I think this is just an online publication, Slate, S-L-A-T-E, Slate. I've seen it before. And here is, I guess, a section they have here. Kind of, I guess, like a Dear Abby, how to do it. Guy says, is my wife a feminist, testing me when she asks to be dominated in bed? I feel like she is. So imagine, this is a guy, and he's writing, asking for help. And this was June 3rd, 2019. So think about this, right? So we could technically end this entire video. I asked the question, do women want to be dominated in and out of the bed? All I have to say is 50 Shades of Grey, and poof, like, that's end of the discussion, right? 50 Shades of Grey told us a lot about women. That movie, the book, the movie, women, oh, they were very successful with that movie. I heard there was a sequel. I don't know how well it did, but the bottom line is women loved that movie. And I don't know what year that was, 50 Shades, what did that come out in 2016 or something like that? $2015. Okay, so it came out in 2015. And here's this article in 2019, and this guy is asking if his wife is just testing him. Now, hear his words. These are his words. So, you know, it seems the problem is as boys, we're raised to believe girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice, and they're so innocent, and you need to be gentle and say all the sweet, kind things to a woman and be a gentleman and chivalrous and open the doors and buy her flowers, buy her candy. And oh man, we're told all this stuff. And you believe it. And your mother is innocent, and all women are innocent. Your mother's innocent, so all women must be like that. And you do like this guy here, you get married and your woman is like, yeah, you need to dominate me. The confusion it creates for men. So listen to this guy's dilemma. I mean, he's really in a dilemma here. And whoever's responding to him, oh, it's Rich, a guy. Wait, by Rich, yeah. I guess it's Rich Juzwiak. Okay, Here we go. This is How to Do It is Slate's sex advice column. People send their questions for Stoya and Rich. Dear How to Do It, I am having a hard time reconciling my wife's feminism. You see that? I'm having a hard time reconciling my wife's feminism with her desire to be dominated. You teach little boys that girls are made of all these sweet things and they're innocent. And wait till you hear more. His wife is a feminist. And so I'm having a hard time reconciling my wife's feminism with her desire to be dominated and submissive. My wife is a very attractive woman who doesn't suffer chauvinism or objectification. Her strength of character and fearlessness to confront an unequal power structure is one of the characteristics that I love about her. As she has been able to advance professionally, she has become even more confident. Right? You go, girl, right? She become more confident, which only increases my desire for her. So I'm sure you guys are having thoughts about this guy, but let's go on. Let's hear his dilemma, his question. I have been finding myself confused. These are his words. I've been finding myself confused, however, because while she will not tolerate being objectified by anyone in public and is very adamant about her agency in private, she wants me to be quite aggressive and seems willing to be very submissive. This is his problem. His wife's a feminist. She doesn't tolerate being objectified. She's an attractive woman. She's adamant about these things, but privately, she wants him to be aggressive and she'll be submissive. I think this is a problem many men deal with. And a lot of guys don't know how to reconcile this. They've been told to get into their feminine side. They've been told treat women equally. Like, how do guys deal with this? There's no like way. We're not teaching boys in school to unlearn all those lies and understand women from this perspective. So this guy goes on. He says, I find myself acting with great skepticism during sex. Man, that must make him a lousy lover. I wonder if his wife's cheating already. So he goes on to say, as though she's testing me, and that if I actually do become more physical, that I will have failed this test and ruin our relationship, which has lasted for 18 years so far. This guy's been in an 18-year relationship. So this is 2019. He's been in an 18-year relationship. 50 Shades of Grey came out in 2015, and here he is in 2019, confused as hell. And his wife is demanding something, and I'm sure it just didn't start in 2019. They've been together for 18 years. And 50 Shades of Grey came out 4 years before this. So hopefully his wife is not cheating on him. What's going on, Colette? Yeah, we're talking about whether women want to be dominated in and out of the bedroom. Yeah, you want to hear this one. So this guy goes on and says, this results in sex that is fine, but I feel could be much better for both of us if I'm confident I'm giving her the kind of sexual experience she actually wants and not just tolerates. While I know that submissive desires are normal and common sexual behavior, I'm wondering if it is common for such adamant feminism to coincide or run parallel with a clear and strong submissive desire. Is this perhaps a specific category that I need to look into? See, I'm talking about this because there are guys out here thinking that they need to do some kind of special research. So he's trying to figure out if submissive desires are normal and common sexual behavior for a feminist. Feminism and female nature are they're two separate buckets, man. Hey, yeah, SW, I never saw that movie either, and I have no interest. Hey, yeah, Imperator, exactly, right? And this is why so many guys cheat, because we focus so much on pleasing women. But so I'm inviting guys to. Sorry, I need to.
When I lost my hairline, it kind of,
Let's see if I can. I want men to do something. And men are. I want to see men enjoy life, especially sex. So I'm. I want to share Fair Use Act. Under the Fair Use Act, I'd like to share something. I like to see men release the Kraken. That's what I want to see guys do. Hey, Imperator, you know what? Women in other countries actually do think about pleasing guys. Yeah, SW, yes, they do things for in the one night stand they don't do for their husband. And that's why I wonder if this guy's wife has already been cheating, because they've been getting together for 15 years. His wife is moving up the corporate ladder, and she's probably begging him to rough it up, right? To up his masculinity during sex. And she's probably isn't even fully expressing what she really wants from him. So you have to wonder, is this just restricted to the bedroom? Maybe she's asking for more and this guy maybe he doesn't get it. So let's hear what the rich had to say to him. The job of reconciling your wife's feminism with her sexual submission belongs to your wife. If she hasn't done so already or is even interested in doing so, she could also be content to be complicated. Right? So his wife's being complicated. This is why I said women are asking men to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I want you to be a gentleman. I want you to do all these nice things. And then in the bedroom, I want you to be rough. And then sometimes out of the bedroom, I need you to, put your foot down, and I need you to do these things. And there's no instruction manual for guys to do this. There really isn't. That's why a lot of guys end up going MGTOW and red pill, because they learn the hard way. So a lot of guys got red pilled by a woman, is what I hear. So this guy goes on the response: your job is to believe her. One of feminism's defining features is the belief that women have the right to choose what to do with their bodies and lives. Just as she has adopted a certain daytime ethos, it is attendant behaviors. She chooses a bedtime one as well. This is not alarming, for she is a consenting adult. Not only is it common to seek sex that seems to oppose one's professional life or ostensible values, it's practically a cliche. See the high-powered businessman who frequents a dominatrix. And I met a dominatrix dominatrix when I was 19. I didn't even know how to spell the word. I'd never heard of it. I'll tell you guys about that. And she told me exactly that. She said, if you think all these women out here who claim to be freaks, she said the real freaks were on Wall Street, where these high-powered Wall Street guys who make 7 figures, and they are, you know, laying down the law all day at work, they then are looking for some woman who can completely dominate them. That's how they get off, right? So this guy is confused about his wife, and I'm saying that there are men who are domineering at work, and then they want some woman to dominate them, and not their wife, because they don't want their wives to do that, or they married someone who wouldn't understand it. This guy goes on to say, even the worst faith reading of this situation, her electing to be dominated is a betrayal to womankind, demands an impossible perfection, the very notion of which is absurd on its face. There are vegetarians who wear leather, believers in social justice who listen to misogynistic music, liberals who find Donald Trump amusing in a way that borders on endearment. Also, everyone's cause goes threadbare at some point. And anyway, desire has a way of transcending politics and making such high-mindedness irrelevant. In all likelihood, your wife's sexual interests are about her, not you. Right? And that's what you're getting at, imperator, right? So she's just thinking about herself. In all likelihood, so I wonder why you think your wife would go out of her way to trick you. Has she hatched schemes to deceive you before? If this suspicion is not based on previous behavior, you're just kind of being a dick. Just believe her and do what she says she wants. Now, he's going to add an interesting twist to this, right? So he said just now, if you're not giving her what she wants, you're just being a dick. Just believe her and do what she says she wants. We should all be so lucky to have a sex partner who informs you exactly how to please them. It makes life so easy and gratifying. Of course, there is also the possibility that you're not into the play she's asking for. If you were, you'd probably be asking way fewer questions and just get down to business. Maybe you're not that dominant, which may be this guy's problem, right? And as I said, we train little boys to be passive, especially in the past 40 years, 50 years. Maybe you don't like that she's directing you to dominate her, right? So in other words, let me go on. He lays this out. Essentially, from what it sounds like, topping from the bottom, right? You guys hear me say leading from the bottom. He's saying topping from the bottom, same thing. So being on the bottom, pretending to be submissive, or really being on top and leading it from the bottom. If that is, in fact, what she's doing, the bottoms are often very skilled at doing so. Then there's no rift in her daytime and bedtime relations power. After all, who's on top and who's on bottom now? So, right, so he's saying his wife could actually be dominating him by demanding that he do certain things, which means she's a professional moving up, and she's dominant in public when it comes to sexism and all that stuff. So perhaps that's what she's doing to him, is dominating him. So this is an example of some of the things guys are dealing with women out here. We hear the whole feminist and women don't want this and they don't want that. Yet somehow they're begging men to do everything that goes against feminism. So does that mean feminism goes against the very nature of being a woman? Right? So I hear so many guys, it's female nature to be deceptive. It's female nature to lie, to cheat, and all this. But is it really female nature to want to be dominated by a man in and out of bed? And feminism is asking them to go against it. See, and then you would get to what you said, SW, is you wouldn't listen to them. You'd make decisions and move forward fearlessly. Sorry, I was looking for something. I thought I knew where it was. Oh, there it is. So if women don't know what they want, then why are guys listening to them, right? We've all heard it. When a woman says yes, she really means no. When she means no, she means yes. You ask her where she wants to eat and she doesn't know. So they're looking for this mental stability from men. And so perhaps when men are not giving that to women, the woman finds out a way to actually lead the man. So in this case, I just read an article, and perhaps that man is not doing a great job of I hate to say leading his woman, but he's not playing a very masculine role. So she ends up leading him from the bottom. And now he's confused because she's asking him to do things that he was told not to do. You just don't do those things. Oh, man. I want to, here it is. Okay. So guys, you got to learn to release the Kraken, right? So let's see if we can find something else that is some more empirical evidence. Hey, Sean, thank you for the super chat. Be dominant. Do what she says she wants. Yeah, in that case, yeah. And I think part of the guy's concern is that he's being dominated into dominating her, which means that she's actually leading him on how to lead her. See, I wonder about that, Sean Hensley. You say they don't respond to competent leadership. So I'm going to share another article. But I call, there are some women out there who are what I call a lumberjack, right? So lumberjack, we know them for having an axe and they swing that sucker and they chop down trees with it. Well, what some women do is they meet a guy, they pull out that axe, and they don't even swing it. They just show the guy, and the guy takes off. Hey, I'm not dealing with this. And in her mind, she's thinking, I knew that guy wasn't strong enough to deal with me, and she scares him away. And then you get women who actually whack, bang, they swing the axe and hit the guy, and he's like, hey, I'm not dealing with this, I'm out. And then she meets a guy who she hits him a couple of times and he falls, and she's like, oh, see, I knew it. And then she meets the guy that she's really looking for, and she whacks, bop, she hits him with the axe, whack, whack. She hits him, whack, whack. And he takes the axe. Almost like he's like, oh, I needed some iron in my diet. He eats that sucker. And what does she do? She leans on that guy because he didn't fall. It's a great analogy, and it's a horrible thing for men to have to hear, because it's saying There are women who actually behave this way, and there really are. So they're pulling out an axe and they're whacking a guy with it to see if he's going to fall, because if he doesn't, then she knows she can lean on him. And if he does, she's like, well, I won't respect him and I'll never lean on him. That's a level of leadership that a lot of women are looking for. They don't know how to ask for it. They don't know how to attract it. And their best way of dealing with it, and so here's the deal, Sean Hensley. Here's what I tell women. Don't ever try to lead me, ever. I understand how women think, and your brain does not work like mine. You say you want it, but you really don't. You say yes when you mean no. You get worried about things that I'm not worried about, and I don't want to be led by a person like that. So don't ever try to lead me. And whenever a woman attempts to lead me, whether it's from top or bottom, I check that immediately. And if she doesn't like it, this is my attitude. I'm going to treat you well. I know how to treat you well. I'm going to lay down some rules, and you are going to operate within those boundaries. And if you don't like it because you think you can find a better deal, then go find it. Just go. If you know there's a better deal out there than me, go take it. This is where men need to stand and let them go. And if every guy does that, and I know you guys think I'm being an idealist, I know you guys think I'm being an idealist. Yeah, Sean, we're saying the same thing. But I think the difference is the way I deliver it is that you operate within these boundaries and you don't ever attempt to lead me. And it's never going to be accepted. And they're going to kick and they're going to scream and and I'm telling them straight why I won't accept it. Most women don't walk away from that is part of what I'm getting at. Because I am going to treat her well. I'm not treating her like a princess. Or I mean, the only way you get treated by a princess as me is if you are officially a princess who's been educated as one. And I don't even know what that means. She's still going to be a woman. And this whole thing of wanting to be dominated is still going to apply because she's still going to be a woman no matter how you. A title never takes away the fact that she's a woman first. Okay, Lando, you're saying, but do women test men more harder based on sexual attraction? Because the same woman wouldn't test a guy the same as a dominant. So, are you saying? I think what maybe you're asking me is when a woman is acting like she's putting on an act. Um, so if the guy has a lot of money and she knows she has to act a certain way. See, this is the thing men need to understand in the United States. Women are only doing what men have allowed them to do. It's just really that simple. In a more liberal and understanding and accepting, like this guy I just read in the article, he's so accepting. He's probably a feminist himself, and he wants to be accepting. And he learned that girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice, and they're so innocent, like his mother is so innocent, and all women are innocent. And his wife is saying, dominate me. You need to be aggressive. You need to handle me like a man. And she's saying in the bedroom, I'm not saying be disrespectful. And some women like that, right? They like being disrespected, especially sexually. but she's probably asking for manhood and masculinity in and out of the bedroom, and he's not catching on. And so, as you said, Imperator, the fascination with following women's lead is killing society. It absolutely is. Because this whole idea of they want to be fair, like I, I'm going to generalize, and generalization is really good. So there's a yeah, we can generalize because Sweden is one of the most egalitarian countries in the world. And they give women the equal opportunity they give to men, except women don't take it. Women still, as women, most of them want jobs where they get to contribute and give back, and they do good in the world. Women want to be fair, and they want to give back. They want to contribute. They want to feel like they're making a contribution to the world. That's why there's so many women working in healthcare. So if you look at Sweden, that's what you see. You don't see a ton of women running to mathematics and physics and investment banking and hedge funds to be the quant guys. You don't see that. You see women going to healthcare to being doctors and maybe lawyers, but there are a lot in healthcare. A lot of women work in healthcare in the US. So you'll hear them talk about what's fair, and men will talk about what's right, what's in the best interest of the whole. And there are men now who are focused on being fair and worrying about being equal. And two men are not equal. So why the hell would we try to have men and women be equal? Yes, Lando, that's what right. I thought you were saying, like, women can be an actress, right? So she'll act in his face. Maybe some of you guys don't. You all probably have heard of Warren Buffett. At one point, he was the wealthiest man in the world. He probably still ranks in the top 5, maybe down to number 10 in the top 10 now. But Warren Buffett, when he was becoming famous, I think in the 70s, his wife ran off with a tennis player, her tennis instructor. He said he was getting a lot of media attention, wasn't paying attention to her, and so she ran off with a tennis instructor. And you can imagine her tennis instructor didn't have a fraction, even back then, of Warren Buffett's money. He wasn't a billionaire back then, but you better believe he was doing well. She eventually came back home, and one of the female neighbors came over to Warren Buffett's house when his wife left, and she said, "I'll fill in the shoes, I'll cook, clean, I'll take care of you." And when Warren Buffett's wife came back, he told his wife, "Well, this woman is taking your place. You now have to accept, I'm going to have both of you." And he had both those women until his first wife died, and he now is married to the other woman. Yeah. So Sean, I think part of the problem is that men don't set boundaries soon enough in the relationship. See that this is in Lando, modern women are difficult for no reason because society allows it. No, society is the gender that holds society accountable is men, not women. So it's not society, it's men who are allowing it. That's really why I'm doing this one. It's men who are allowing this. It's not women who are allowing it. And yes, there were in the old days, women would check one another, except those older women were being checked by men also. So the older guys, see, guys have become, they were told to get into their feminine side. I mean, just think about this, right? We live in a society where we are trying to get, you guys heard me say this before, we're trying to get humans to be more robotic and robots to be more human. This makes no sense at all. And at the same time, we're trying to get men to be more feminine and women to be more masculine. This is just, we're working against nature. I am asserting that women, their nature is to want a man who's physically and mentally stronger, and she will honor and respect him for that. Unfortunately, she may have to test you because uh, a lot of women are being raised without fathers, so they have no distinctions for masculinity or manhood. So they have to do this lumberjack thing where they swing the axe and hit you with it to see if you fall. But it's what they really want. We may be seeing the craziness we are seeing as a society, may be that women are waiting for men to put them in check. And the more you don't, the more they get off the reservation. So men need to be putting these, look, don't ever try to lead me. I never allow a woman to lead me. Tell them why. Look, I understand how your brain works. I don't have a problem with you being a woman. I understand you have a menstrual cycle. I understand that you worry about things that I'll never worry about. No, Imperator, I'm not making excuses. Here's what I'm saying. You have a child. You never correct and guide that child. And that child just does whatever it wants and says whatever it wants. And the older that child gets, and the more you don't check that child and provide guidance, the crazier that child is going to act. They're going to just think it's normal. And the rest of the world is going to, the people around you are going to be like, wow, your child is rude and unruly and doesn't listen, but you never checked it from the beginning. I understand that women have run off with a lot of stuff, but if you have a child like this, at some point you have to check them, man. And I have, well, I have a relative, and that relative has a daughter who was unruly with adults. And this was like a 7-year-old girl running her mouth with adults. I never, ever accepted that from her. And she never, ever, ever once did that with me. And my brother also never accepted that. And I watched this girl grow up and have a mouth with her mother. She had a mouth with her father. And it didn't matter even if her parents got physical with her. This girl was growing up to be a teenager who had a mouth on her. And I watched other men, family members who were big, and she just ran that mouth with them. And I watched the guy want to like just clobber her, but I never once had that problem because there were boundaries and they were tight. I never put my hands on her. I never put my hands on her, and if I asked her to stop, she stopped. If I asked her to do something, she did it. She did it immediately. So let me what is this? I like bringing science into this conversation. So let's do that. This is another article. Women show sexual preference for tall, dominant men. So is gender inequality inevitable? So we all hear the woman, and this is in the conversation. Um, we all hear women say they want the guy who's 6'2" and six-pack and all this. See, I think women are telling us something, and it's what I'm saying. So let's see. Let's look at science. The old cliche tells us the most desirable men are tall, dark, and handsome. The scientific research confirms that heterosexual women tend to prefer partners who are taller than them. Let me see. And here's some research. And what the research ultimately came down to is that men do prefer women who are shorter than them than they are. But what was it, 8 centimeters? Centimeters. This is going to give it to us in centimeters. 8 centimeters is like 8 inches. This is going to be crazy, right? So one study found that on average, women's satisfaction with their partner's actual height was greater when he was 21 centimeters taller than themselves. 21 centimeters comes out to about 21 inches. So women are looking for a man who's at least 21 inches taller than she is. That's almost 2 feet taller. It's crazy, right? Conversely, men's satisfaction was greater with a woman who was 8 centimeters shorter than him. So men only needed a woman who was like 8 inches. I'm sorry, where did I get it? Sorry, 21 centimeters. Oh, I see what they did. I got it. 21 centimeters. Boy, I got that wrong. Is 8 inches, 8.5 inches. 21 centimeters is 8.5 inches. So a woman's looking for a guy who's at least 8 inches taller than she is. And a guy, well, he only wanted 8 centimeters, which is only about 3 inches. So women are looking for a clear, dominant difference in physical stature between her and the guy she wants to mate with. Men, they don't need that much. 3 inches, they're okay with that. Women are looking for 8-inch difference. Is that so she wants the big guy so she can dominate him? Yeah, I corrected it, Sean. They were giving me what I wanted. I didn't realize it. They were giving me centimeters and inches on one side of it. So anyway, women's choice of taller men might indicate a preference for men who are more dominant, which may be due to the way that biological evolution has shaped our brains, right? This is what I mean. Like, is this just human nature? Are we fighting against it? And we're seeing the insanity, and women may be throwing temper tantrums because men won't lay down the hammer, man. And I don't necessarily mean physically beating them, but the courts look at women as children, man. This in turn may have shaped our culture and the norms that reinforce the expectation that a man should be taller than his female partner. Fortunately, we can change our culture. The animal kingdom, dimorphism, where one sex is substantially larger or otherwise different in appearance to the other, is common among animals. They said in some species, such as spiders, including the Australian redback, the female is larger than the male. And if you look here, you see the difference. The female is much larger than the male spider. I wonder if she eats him also, like the black widow. But in mammals, including us humans, it is often the male who is larger. Among our closest living relatives, the chimpanzee, gorilla, and orangutan, males are much bigger than females. They are physically stronger and have larger, sharper canine teeth. Even their teeth are more dangerous, more predatory. While such characteristics benefit males in competition with one another, they also enable them to physically and sexually dominate females. How many women loved 50 Shades of Grey? We kind of have to take a step back. I understand what we're looking at. So this is the problem in life. Everything is not what it appears to be. See, we have a mindset of seeing is believing. It's the things that you can't see that are actually happening. I'm asking you guys to shut down everything you know and start to look at things from another perspective. Women's preference for dominant men. All right, this is an article I'm reading. Women show sexual preference for tall, dominant men. So is gender inequality inevitable? That's what we're looking at in this article. Women's preference for dominant men. Besides the preference for height, women also tend to show a preference for indicators of dominance in men, such as physical strength and masculine facial features. They've done this. I've talked about this. Women looking at men with masculine features. They're looking for that dominance. The controversial psychologist Jordan Peterson goes as far as claiming that women hate harmless men. Let's listen to Peterson. Fair rights.
There's an aggressiveness.
So under Section 107 of the Copyright Act, 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. And so I'm using this for educational purposes only. I want you guys some of you may or may not like Jordan Peterson, but I'm asking you to listen to what he's about to say.
There's an aggressiveness to that art form that's a necessary corrective to the insistence that the highest moral virtue for a modern man is harmlessness, which is absurd. Women don't even like harmless men. They hate them. They like to claw them apart. You know, what women want are dangerous men who are civilized. And they want to help civilize them. Right? That's Beauty and the Beast, the typical structure of, well, they didn't use those words, of female pornography use. And so some of you know, how many of you know what a Harlequin romance is? Okay, good. So those are archetypal stories, right? That's the taming of the wild man, essentially, by the desirable and virginal woman. And if you think women don't want that, then you better bloody well come up with an explanation for 50 Shades of Grey, right? Which is the most rapid selling novel in human history, and emerged at exactly the same time that all of this noise about the absence of gender roles is being produced, en masse. It's like perfect female fantasy. It's exactly archetypally correct. It's Beauty and the Beast. So what the Google guys showed was the structure of Beauty and the Beast, although they didn't use that as a referent, that the female pornographic fantasy was wild guy, somewhat careless about the wants and desires of others, attractive to everyone, therefore high status, tamed by the magic of a single woman and brought into a relationship with her. Okay, but here's the comical part. This just made me laugh, man. It was like, what were the 5 categories of most desirable male entity used most broadly in female pornography? Oh, it's so embarrassing. Women, you have to cover your head while I say this. Vampire, werewolf, billionaire, surgeon, and pirate. Okay, another question?
I had not seen that video, so I didn't know he was going to say 50 Shades of Grey. I'm asserting that feminism is going completely against female nature. Yes, there's a level of, as he said, women wanting to tame the beast. So it's that her own personal beast, except she still wants the beast to be the beast. She still wants sex with the beast. And there's the other thing. I did this group. I had a conversation with a group of a lot of women, and the question was, why do you need men to be leaders? And one of the common threads that all the women were saying was, we know that sometimes a woman can be emotional and irrational, and we need a man who's mentally stable, solid, logical, and strong enough to deal with us when we get into that mindset and explain to us why we are wrong. That is what many women were looking for. Help us get out of that irrational state of mind and help us understand what is correct. That means she wants you to be patient, but you have to be strong enough, firm enough, powerful enough to be impervious and not to be thrown and shaken by her temper tantrum. So you have to be the beast. It's like she wants the intelligent beast. What is that? Isn't that an X-Men? One of the guys, he's the real intelligent guy who wears the glasses, but he's the beast. I mean, that's really what a lot of women are looking for. That beast that she cannot control, she cannot dominate, she can't beat, she's not intellectually stronger, except you have the patience to deal with her when she knows she's out of line. And this was a common thread that women had. And if you were the nice guy, as he was saying, they hate them. What was if you were harmless, like she had to know these are boundaries. It's like you have to be almost on the edge of abusive without physically harming, but she needs to know that threat is there. It's always there. There's a distinction that I'm looking to get across, guys. There's a certain kind of distinction. It's 50 Shades of Gray is perfect because it's in that gray area. It's where man really is dangerous. He's a beast. He's a very dangerous predator who can kill you, except he doesn't. See, that is a man who's powerful. I'm so powerful. It's like a Bugatti. That some guy pulls up next to you, you're at a light, you drive a Bugatti, and some guy pulls up next to you in a Cadillac, and he's like, yeah, or a Mustang. He's got a Mustang. Yeah, you can crush that guy. And you don't have to. You can if you want to. So listen, man, and that's it. Look, Harambee, we got here because no one wanted to deal with it. I'm telling you, when you have a child and you don't check and guide your child, they're going to go crazy. They're going to think they can say whatever they want to whoever they want. Adults, children, they may become a bully. And you don't want to have to do that with your child. But a woman's brain is not the same as a man. And I understand there are people saying women are queens and princesses and the divine feminine and all. Come on, man. Women's brains straight up go into a chaos. No, Imperator, what I'm saying is I put my foot down. But I'll do it in a conversation that is like, hey, how you doing? Like, here's where I stand. And a woman would say, well, that's too forceful. And I say, look, I understand how a woman's brain works. You know how women work. You know women worry about things that are never going to go wrong. They get upset about things that never happen, never will happen, and it didn't happen in the past. It's not happening now. So I'm never allowing a woman to lead me. Now, a woman who isn't intelligent enough to understand that, she's just not qualified. Imperator, yes, it's not your job to watch all women. But here's the deal. Women learn that from men, and men are not teaching it. Men stopped teaching that self-control to women, especially when you took them out of the house. That became a big problem. And you have too many men who are feminists, and they teach their daughters to be feminists, and they really teach them that they don't have to respect men. Like the one thing we have to stop telling girls and women is that men only want one thing. We're too many fathers are teaching their daughters inaccurate information. Yeah, hey Lando, right? There are women who can go to the beta. I get that, but here's the deal: she is not going to like it there, and she knows that. I see your super chats, Sean. Thank you for another super chat. Uh, no, men don't lose in the end. I, the sooner you establish these things with a woman, the easier it is to manage. They're not being trained, Sean, by who? Their mother? And they bought into feminism. Listen, women are the happiness meter is saying women were happier in the 70s than they are now. I'm asserting that a major reason women are not happy is because they've been allowed to deviate from their own female nature. They're not getting what they need from men because they told men they don't want that anymore, except it's what they really wanted. I mean, come on, it's unfortunate. We've heard women say a woman says no when they really mean yes. And you just have to ignore it. In the older days, that was clear in the movies. Look, the woman says no, she means yes. She really wants to have sex. And now they'll say, oh, that's date rape. And I understand that. Part of it is, man, you've got to draw lines with women and their intelligence. And sometimes, listen, here's what I'm willing to bet $1 billion that every man in here listening to me has high intelligence. You guys are listening to me because you have a very different perspective on the world. You guys are intelligent. You guys set yourself apart in many different ways. I mean, I come on here and talk about complex things, and you guys know what I'm saying. And I understand you're dealing with a world out there. I understand that. I'm also saying you don't have to deal with that. If men don't start to deal with the world on their own terms instead of letting the world tell them how to do things. See, men allowed the world to tell them how to be men for too long. And it's not even that you have to take it back. No one ever took manhood from you. No woman can ever take manhood from a man. It just can't be. Well, men are living like their manhood has been taken away. Like, you still have a dick, you still have testosterone. And I understand we've got food that's making men more feminine. Oh, I did a show on testosterone with Red Pill Rican. We did a great show talking about how men can increase their testosterone levels. If you haven't seen it, it's worth watching. Look, this article goes on to say large dominant men can offer greater protection to their partners and children from other men, and were likely to have been better providers for food and other resources throughout evolutionary history. This suggests that it is adaptive in evolutionary terms for women to be attracted to such men, to choose them as partners. See, we may think that human beings have evolved. We haven't, man. Women are still making choices of men, just like a lion. Listen to all this talk about an alpha male. Where's the evolution? Guys fighting for a woman. Women still accept that. Research supporting this argument has found that women with a higher fear of crime are more likely to prefer physically formidable and dominant males. So this is another thing. See, this is going to tell you about there are women who have a lot of fear. There are a lot of women who are cowards. And I think we've made cowardly behavior acceptable in excessive amounts. There's an abundance of cowardice. In addition, women who score lower on dominance show a stronger preference for taller men. So women who score lower on dominance, they prefer taller men. Unfortunately, the preference for larger and more dominant men comes with a cost. Such men, while they might protect their partners from other men, also present the risk of turning their aggression onto their partners. This is a challenge for women. By choosing larger and more dominant men, women potentially become more vulnerable to physical and sexual domination by their partner. Crime statistics show that the majority of intimate partner murder victims are female. Here's a good question. Does biology make us inherently sexist? And that means everyone. Evolution by natural selection has no predetermined purpose and doesn't work towards any goal. It simply describes how physical and psychological characteristics become more common if they help an organism pass on its genes. We want to pass on our genes. That's what a woman wants to do, just like a man wants to. So, and they've done the research. They've looked. They've observed younger women in college and what they focus on. Like they look at a man's shape, that V shape, and they want their children to have that. They want to give their sons a better chance of surviving in the world. And the men are looking at the woman's uterus area. He's looking at her breast. He's looking at her body. And does she have the genetics that he wants passed on to his children? We haven't evolved past that. And we do look at intelligence. Yes, will my children inherit her intelligence and give them a better chance of survival in the world? Will they have a better life because of that? Physical and mental power. Evolution by natural selection. Okay, the desire in females for tall, dominant males is just likely to have been a successful way of propagating genes even before Homo sapiens evolved. Although we are not blind to the benefits of size, these sexual and romantic preferences are not determined by conscious choice, nor are they always rational or desirable. We don't choose what we find attractive, much like all animals whose brains are also the products of evolution. So the fact that women prefer male partners who can and often do dominate them does not mean that women want to be dominated. Okay. The genetic payoff over evolutionary time for producing offspring with such men has simply been greater than any genetic cost of being dominated by them. Women risk aggression from their partners as part of a strategy to counteract the threat of violence from other men. While our biology-based preferences are largely outside of our conscious control, they do not rigidly determine our behavior. So he's going on to say it's just culture. Culture can be changed. Culture is not fixed, right? So what I'm getting at, guys, is that there is something women are asking for. And who they are as women, they are in conflict with that. But they've been taught not to ask for it. They've been shamed into not ask for it and asking for it. They've been shamed for being feminine. They've been shamed for depending on the masculinity of a man. Yet you guys see it. Women still choose the masculine guy. They still choose the bad boy. They still want the guy who's 6'2" and makes six figures. 6-pack, and 6'2". That's a young man's mindset. We're supposed to be past that in middle age. That's a problem too. These women are too old. No. So what I just read is that this has nothing to do with age. This is part of who we are, man. And yes, Imperator, men did not kick themselves out. Women kicked them out. But I just still have to say this. There are men who did not allow themselves to be kicked out. They did not allow it. It would have been a different place to stand. And perhaps there should have been penalties. Hey, look, man, in China, the father has an enormous amount of power over his daughter. Men need that. Someone was telling me there was a time when men were allowed to spank their wives with a belt. You know, you put her ass over over your knee and spank her. You look at the old movies. I don't know if they took the scenes out or they changed the movies. Every once in a while, you'd see the guys smack Martha. Get out of it. Straighten up. Get it together. In the Hispanic novellas, you still see a man smack a woman to check her. It still happens. And yes, Imperator, a lot of bad boys are not masculine. I was just telling a buddy of mine last night that when I lived in DC, there was this nightclub called Trax. And Trax was known as a gay club. They had a straight night. And I know a woman who was a model, and she told me one night they asked her to model for this event. It was Hustler of the Year. This was the drug dealers, the biggest, hardest, toughest drug dealers in DC. And this was during the time DC was in its reputation as the murder capital. And she told me that these guys who are hardened, rough drug dealers, killers, they walked across the stage to be contestants of Hustler of the Year. And they walked across as flaming queens. These rough, hardened drug dealers. So yes, bad boys do not always mean masculine. Now those guys may have all been to jail, and you know, we can go on with that, but you get the point. So what let me share this with you. And I do understand what you guys are saying. I do understand that there are women who are out of control. But this is a Psychology of Women Quarterly. This is a journal. This is a paper. This is a paper that someone wrote about domination and objectification. Men's motivation for dominance over women affects their tendency to sexually objectify women. And essentially, this paper is talking about how if a woman objectifies a man, it doesn't make him submissive. It doesn't make him sort of shut down and know his place. Men can handle being objectified by women. And just because she objectifies him doesn't mean she can dominate him. On the other hand, when men objectify women, she tends to be to quiet her voice, and I understand today you may get women who get loud and scream and why are you looking at me and blah blah blah, but men don't get out of control and triggered like that. See, women can be triggered by being objectified. There's a place they can take. There's a role. There's an inherent, almost like genetic predisposition of accepting a man values a woman for her physical stature, and that plays a role in a relationship. It doesn't have that same effect on men. So, and this is not even about sex, right? This is my question. Do women want to be dominated in and out of the bed? So what we're attempting, our society, feminism, is attempting to force women to go against their very own genetic makeup, their own nature. And it's confusing for women. And, just think about it. When you put society into that kind of confusion, you're going to get exactly what we see now. We're going to say, yes, people look crazy when you try to force people to be something they're not, right? So you try to make people like robots at work, so they may become apathetic and not care about their job, right? So you're going to have poor performance because you're making the robots more human and you're making the people more robotic. You're going to have some breakdown in the natural structure of things. So asking women to be masculine and men to be feminine, you're going to have a breakdown. You're actually forcing women to be something they're not. You're asking them to think in ways they don't even know how to think. No matter who writes a book about thinking like a man, they just don't know how to do that. They don't have the biology for it. So it's going to create chaos, and we're in it. Part of what I'm saying, the only human beings on a planet who can get order out of chaos is a man. Are there some women who are exceptions? Sure. But we're probably not even talking 1%, and I don't have empirical evidence for that. We're in chaos, and we let women off the leash. We would have been, you guys have heard me say it. When women said that they wanted equality, we should have told them that you got it. You have the right to go build your own society. Just go. You just go. Leave. Now, in Paradise, it's interesting because in China, they're realizing that boys are not good at being masculine. Like they're losing their understanding of masculinity. So the Chinese are going back, you could say, to the basics, right? We're going to make sure these boys understand how to be. They are now implementing that. That's the good thing about China's socio-political structure. If their prime minister says, tomorrow everyone wears red, everyone wears red. Tomorrow all boys going to learn about masculinity, that's what you're going to learn. That's a lot of power, and you can create unity and you can get alignment in one direction. We have too many hurdles and red tape and bureaucracy here, and people who don't like certain things. But just listen to what Jordan Peterson said. Women hate and despise harmless men. And I understand some people don't necessarily like Jordan Peterson, but he is a psychologist. He's a professional. He's been part of studies. And he's saying women hate harmless men. Women go to the bad boy. She knows there's boundaries. And listen, some of those bad boys, she can walk all over him because they have nothing. And they know they can control that guy. But this is a paper that's talking about domination and objectification. There's a natural level of dominance that women will accept from a man. Men are being taught to accept that from a woman, and women are being taught to fight it because it's a man is the enemy and he's going to hurt you. He's going to take, all this stuff from you. Women have a false sense of security. They believe having a job makes them something, and it really doesn't. They think it makes them partly like more masculine, like a man. The belief that having a job is what it means to be a man. Part of the problem that they don't understand is the more women you put in the workforce, the more men you displace, which means there are going to be less men with income who can support or take care of a family. Thanks for the super chat, Sean. The work you're talking about doing is a type of investment. It's a hard sell to get guys to keep doing that, woman after woman after woman. So really what I'm talking about, it technically has nothing to do with women. It has everything to do with who you are as a man and the kind of man you develop yourself into. So what I'm talking about is the kind of self-development, the kind of empowerment, the kind of tools, the kind of mindset, right? So it's an unlearning of all the indoctrination, all the imposed beliefs that have been put on men and women. It's stripping that down. It's transformation is stripping down layers of stuff. In alchemy is a great way to put this. The alchemist, one of the things they said the alchemist knew how to do was to transform lead into gold. And the way an alchemist transformed lead into gold is he had to have tools to do it. One is he had to have a flame that was so hot it was a white flame. And two, he had to have this white substance. So what he did is put the lead into the hot flame and he applied the white substance intermittently. And what he essentially did is burned off all the lead properties. He killed off the lead properties. And what was left was the essence of the metal, which was gold. That is what I'm talking about. This has really nothing to do with women, even though it impacts your relationship with women. But it's really from an alchemistic, if that's a word, is to transform men into men who are solid gold, who can say no. Like this is what women need. They need a wall of masculinity that says no. The buck stops here. This is no longer being tolerated. This is about men being men. Because the problem is technically bigger than women. I mean, the more we weaken our nation, the easier it is for someone who's going to eventually come here and take over. I don't know. So how do you explain women avoiding good men that women know will give them and enforce boundaries? So some women, it's correct, have been taught to be whores, right? So, and that's a problem, right? Because that's going to create emotional instability for them, which means, no one wants the Bugatti, the 2-year-old Bugatti that has 1 million miles on it. It's not going to have the same compression, the same horsepower. It just won't. It's been driven by too many miles by too many people. So that's a problem. Women have been tricked out of their femininity. But see, I'm also saying that a lot of fathers, a lot of brothers, a lot of uncles, a lot of grandfathers are teaching their daughters and sons and grandsons and nephews to be feminist. So as a father, telling your daughter, I want you to grow up and never need a man because men only want one thing, you just taught your daughter to have zero respect for men, including yourself. So what I'm talking about is men having masculine power, regardless of who the woman is. And you know what? Sometimes you have to walk away, but at least give them something to miss. Yes, and bad boys, they don't care, right? They don't care how many women she's been with because a lot of them are emotionally unstable, a lot of the bad boys. So they don't mind if she's emotionally unstable. Some of those bad boys do hold women to standards, and some of those bad boys beat their asses. Some of these women get their asses kicked. Some of these women end up dead from these bad boys. And yes, there are wannabe bad boys out there who women get to say, you ain't shit and you ain't got shit, and um, I can put you out. I don't know if I want to call them bad boys. There are a lot of wannabe, but a guy who really is a bad boy, he's a threat to a woman. There are boundaries. See, women will accept those boundaries from bad boys. They really will. And they may push it and end up dead. Or they get their ass kicked and then they go looking for the good guy. So ultimately, what I'm talking about is well beyond women. So there are women who come here from other countries. They come to the US. They have very different values than the women here, and they get influenced. But here's the deal. If you show them masculinity, my commitment tonight is to show that women by their nature accept dominance from men. And it doesn't matter what country the woman is from and what age she is. I mean, I've seen very few women who I would consider to be powerful just in their own right. It had nothing to do with the job. I met a woman when I was living abroad, when I was just traveling. I spent a number of years living abroad in Central America. And I met a woman from Uruguay. I was in El Salvador. I met her there and I said, hey, I'm going to hang out in Guatemala. Now, this woman from Uruguay, living in Australia, traveled. She was going to see her family in Uruguay, but she went down into the southern part of Argentina, came up, stopped in Uruguay, stopped in all the countries in South America, or some of the countries. And I met her up in El Salvador. She was heading up to see an aunt in Canada. She was 21 and by herself. I'm telling you that most women do not have the spine to travel internationally alone. That's a different kind of woman. And I can tell you that she didn't have that disrespectful, rebellious nature. Now, she had that feminist, independence, but there was a different kind of power that she presented. Very different than a woman who's depending on, well, I have a job and my own money. I'm telling you, to travel alone by yourself. And she had been traveling for 9 months when I met her, and she hung out with me in Guatemala for a week and a half. And when there was an incident where I actually had to correct her. Imagine you only have a week and a half with a woman, and at some point you have to correct her. She's but there was a lake. We swam in a lake. We went to see ruins in Tikal, and there was a zoo on the other side of the lake. So we take a boat, we hang out at the zoo, and this is Guatemala, so all these safety standards we see at zoos here, that didn't exist, man. I think the zoo was on like an island, and there was a jaguar, and they had him behind a fence, no cage. You could literally stick your finger in a fence and touch the jaguar. And this woman, showing that she had guts, sticks her finger in the cage with the jaguar and is wiggling it so it sees her, and she's got a camera. She wants to get a good shot of it. And I'm watching her, and I'm watching the jaguar, man. And the jaguar is, man, if you guys have seen jaguars, they are powerful, man. They have jaws, man. They crack the skull of those alligators, man. Jaguars are dangerous. And she's got her finger in there, and there's this little mound, I don't know, maybe it's 4 feet high. I'm sitting on it right next to the cage, and I'm watching this jaguar just like real sneaky, pretending he's not looking at her. And I watch his muscles get ready like he's gonna leap. So I leapt and I pushed her, and she got upset with me. How dare you? You screwed up my picture, and oh man, she was, and I only knew her for like 3 days, maybe 4 days max. She's upset with me. And I said, I don't care. I literally didn't care. I did what was in your best interest. As a man, I did what was right. And you can be upset. So she had her little funk going on, and we go see some other wild cats, and some other cat that was between a house cat and a bobcat. So it was big, and it was in a cage also, smaller, and it had a little branch going across it, and she sticks her finger in there, and the cat runs, grabs and scratch, get a good scratch on her finger. And there she learned her lesson. She learned that I corrected her and I saved her ass, because that jaguar would have gotten her finger just like that other cat. The smaller cat got to her quicker, but that jaguar, if he would have got her, he would have taken that finger with her. So I did was exactly Imperator. She was angry with me. So what was she going to do? Not have sex with me? I did was what was in her best interest. And I corrected her. And she got upset. Fuck it. Get upset. What are you going to do? What, you going to kick my ass? And look, this woman swam. She was a surfer girl. She was no wimpy girl. She swam a mile every day. Her body was tight. I mean, she was like, wow. So taught me the right way to tread water. I used to tread water like doggy paddle. She taught me how to really tread water. So what she was, the point I'm making is that as strong-headed as she was, it wasn't about I got my own job and money. Like, she was a woman who had the guts. There are a lot of women who pretend they have guts, but really they're cowards. And that's why so many, I read that article and you guys saw how women who have more fear are often looking for bigger guys because they're afraid of crime, right? So there's a book I used before. There's a video I did some time ago about there's more couples. There's a micro trend where taller women are dating shorter men, and those women have a lot more confidence. They don't care what people think of them. They're choosing a guy based on the guy, and those relationships tend to work out often. Because the woman is choosing the guy not based on some survival. She's looking at other things. It could be intelligence. It could be physical stature. So it really, women are responding to us. So there are lots of women that you have to throw back in the ocean. You have to kick to the curb. But do it with a class and a masculinity that they are not accustomed to. And if more men do this, it is the only way they are going to learn. But ultimately, you need to be having these conversations up front about, I never allow a woman to lead. Don't ever try to lead me. I'm telling you straight. And whenever they step out of bounds, and most likely they will, because they've either led from the bottom or the top, and guys allow it. Like one of you said, we live in a society where men are fascinated by following a woman's lead. So lots of women are accustomed to that. And I talked to you about a group of women I spoke to who said they wanted men who could lead because they know they get emotional and they get irrational. on another occasion, there were women who said, just make a man believe he's leading you. Now, a lot of this gets into like mind games, and I'm surely not interested in that also. But the bigger point is, as a man, you set up your masculinity, you do your own personal development, you get your head straight, and it doesn't matter where the woman comes from. I think many of the problems, women being raised without a father in the home, they have no clue how to interact with a man. Even if their father is in their life, not having him at home on a daily basis and watching him interact with mom, understanding the male-female dynamics is a big problem. So you guys are going to have to use heavy criteria. Now, if you meet a woman who's already dated me, you're going to have an easier time, because I promise you, I've checked her enough times that there's a language you can use. You can tell her you're not going to be led by her. You can say, look, I did certain things I don't accept and tolerate, and you be impervious. You don't move. You be like that tree that doesn't get blown down, or the last tree standing in a desert after all the other trees died. And you can release the Kraken. If you come after me, you'll have an easier time. And I know guys don't like to hear when I say that, but if you think about society, there's a woman you might like, you know it's not going to work, you check her and you let her walk being checked. She will put her tail between her legs, and she'll go out and try to be boastful and cocky with some other guy. And if he makes her walk with her tail between her legs enough times, she will understand and she will know her lane with men. But if no guy does it, then she'll never know when she's out of line. Eventually, she gets smacked back in line enough times. But ultimately, that's daddy's job. And too many fathers are not doing their job. They're teaching their daughters to be feminists who don't need men. And this is a problem. They're not teaching their daughters how to cooperate with men. And that's just setting women up for failure. In the end, women lose. So, as a guy, you can be 40, you can be 50, and you can still date women who are 15, 20 years younger than you. And for the record, it's technically easier to control an older woman because she knows she doesn't have options. A younger woman, a 25-year-old woman, can say, forget you. I have a bunch of men who are interested in me. A 48-year-old woman doesn't have that line of men. And she knows she's competing. She might be in denial. A 48-year-old woman knows she can't compete with a 27 or even a 38-year-old woman. So it's easier to lay down law with an older woman than it is with someone who's younger. Just a lot of women are incompetent. So now I'm going to contradict everything I said. There are a lot of incompetent women. So someone interviews for a job and they lie about their competence, and they get on the job and you find that they're incompetent. A lot of people get fired, right? So you fire them, you retrain them, or you put them in a friend zone. You relocate, you reposition, you put them somewhere else. If she allows herself to be retrained, she may be worth it. What's going on, Red Pill and Romeo? Good to see you in the house. Trying to think if there was another video I wanted. Let's see if I can quickly run through this one. This one is a little bit funny. So this is in the New York Times, and this is an article, section called Modern Love. Title of the article is "I Want It to Be Love. I Want It to Be Dominated, but Not Quite Like That." What year was this? Oh, June of 2018. So, so this woman is talking about a date with a guy that she had just recently started dating, and he asked her, "Are you right-handed or are you left or right-handed?" And she said right-handed. And she said when they stopped at the bottom, I guess they were walking down subway steps. He puts his arms around me and hugged me tightly, nuzzling his lips into my neck. Suddenly, my vision blurred in a flash of blinding pain as I felt his teeth sinking to my right shoulder. I had experienced my share of pain over the years, a broken arm, a split chin, but not like this, never intentionally. As he had wrapped our third date, earlier that night, he had asked if he could mark or foray into BDSM by biting me. And I said yes. I didn't think he'd actually do it. So this was a woman who wanted to be dominated by BDSM, and she ended up meeting this guy who he was into it, and he bit her on several occasions and left his mark on her. He was in a relationship. He made it clear that he was in an open relationship. He wasn't available for a relationship. He even told this woman, I want you to myself. I don't want you with anyone else. And she complied. So she met him on OkCupid. So I think there are more women who are open to these kinds of experiences. And in this case, he's doing it. This is in New York. And he's doing it walking down the stairs of a subway. And I'm saying this to illustrate that there are women who are very comfortable being dominated out of bed. There's a way of positioning yourself with what this guy did. Let's see. He addressed this all up front. Let's see. Here's how this guy did it. She said around this time she was looking for a date. Her last relationship messed her up. So around this time, I received an OkCupid notification that someone had liked my profile. I logged on, saw a black and white photo of a man's jawline, and clicked about me. And it read like this: I'm a feminist. I respect women while simultaneously enjoy dominating them. Great. One of those 50 Shades opportunities. I was appalled, of course, so I kept reading. Favorite things: sending you to work with marks of the fragrance of your hair lingering on my hands, photography, and Dan Savage. I slammed shut my laptop. I was, well, turned on, but I couldn't message him. Kink was something people did on HBO. I had scoffed at 50 Shades of Grey craze. I could not message him. Or could I? I was an adult. Just because I wasn't dating didn't mean I couldn't reply. I opened up the message box and typed, big fan of Dan Savage. I don't know who that is. Maybe he was in the movie 50 Shades of Grey. It says, I'm intrigued. I hit send and then ran out of the room screaming. 1 week and dozens of emails later, Dan and I agreed to meet at Prospect Park. That's in Brooklyn. He was handsome, mid-30s, dark brown eyes and hair. Very fit. He told me he'd been a dominant for years and lived with his girlfriend in an open relationship. They had rules: no unprotected sex, no sleepovers, no kissing. I had never met a man who communicated his needs so confidently. Where would we meet? I asked. Your place before work, 6 a.m. I gulped. I was not a morning person, nor did I love the idea of being seen naked in the light of day, but Dan felt safe and in control. I liked being near him. You need to tell me everything, he said. All of your baggage, any triggers. I want to keep a journal. I want you to keep a journal and send it to me too. I have to know what might come up. Later, after that third date, he agreed on a set of rules. Oh, I'm sorry. Later, after that date, we agreed on a set of rules and boundaries. I shared everything. I was usually too afraid to tell a new partner. My dad died 3 months ago, I said, so maybe we avoid daddy stuff. Got it. What else? I'm not a blackout drunk, but I think I get really depressed. I'm not a blackout drunk, but if I drink, I get really depressed. I'd prefer you didn't drink around me. Great, he said. I'd like you to be fully aware anyway. For the next 2 months, Dan texted me constantly. His aura of calm control was a revelation for me. Rather than fleeing from my emotional baggage, we welcomed it without fear or judgment. So I'm reading this because this is a guy who's just being upfront right in the beginning. This is how things run. This is how I do things. You take it or you leave it. I'll respect you. He said, I'm a feminist, so I respect you as a woman, but I want to dominate you. He's telling you that up front. You need to tell me all your fears. You need to get this out on paper. You need to keep a journal. This guy is laying down the law from the very beginning. This is really what I'm talking about. He's laying it down. And if she doesn't like it, see, once you lay things down, once you start off this way, you've got this as your foundation, right? So this is your whole foundation. This is the way things go with me between you and I. And that's it. And if she tries to step out of line, like at some point she told him an ex-boyfriend had contacted her and she was going to go out and maybe start something. And he told her straight, I don't want to share you with anyone, even though he's in a committed relationship, in an open relationship with some other woman. This is what I'm saying, guys. You've got to lay it out in the beginning. First couple of conversations, you just have to. And if they don't like it, then they can walk. If they go with it, it's easier to keep them in check. And I don't care how professional and how much money she makes. So QB Film, thanks for Film Room, thanks for joining. So one of the things so I just read this article in the New York Times. So if you don't want to go through this over and over, one of the most important things is to really understand yourself and who's compatible with you. There are a lot of women in the U.S. There are a lot of women who grew up without fathers. There are women in this country from other places who have very different values. But if men in the U.S. go into a relationship with a woman who's comfortable with masculinity and she's from another country, and you try to be fair and in your masculine side here, you're going to screw that up. So that's a big part of what I'm getting at here. That was the message I wanted to get across. Do women want to be dominated in and out of bed? So this last story that I read, that's a real story. That's not some article by experts. The first one I read was a man asking, "What do I do? My wife is a professional moving up the corporate ladder. She doesn't tolerate any kind of sexist behavior or being objectified, yet she wants to be dominated in the bedroom. And most likely she wanted to be dominated out of the bedroom, but that guy just didn't know how to do it." This last story I read was about a woman who responded to online dating and was allowing a guy to dominate her in and out of bed. He's demanding that you tell me what your triggers are. You tell me all these things. I'm going to bite you. I'm going to be dominant. I'm going to do all these things in and out of bed. And she accepts it. So to dominate a woman in bed, there's got to be a level of dominance you have out of bed also. She's got to feel like you have that control. And yes, I understand you guys are saying you don't want to go through this over and over, but the sooner you lay down rules the way this guy did with this woman, and the woman complied, and there are lots of women who are smart who will comply, the sooner you can get across in educated, and in a way that women want is a logical leader being able to, I don't want to say explain, but really being able to lay out boundaries. Long term, it's better. And one of the problems is that you get third party interference. So some of her friends may say, I can't believe you're doing that. That may be the biggest problem that a lot of guys are dealing with. And so you need to have that conversation also with her. And if she's not smart enough, then she'll blow it. So I'm asserting that women do want to be dominated in and out of the bedroom. They just do. And the idea of having money and a job, they equate that with some kind of manhood, and they're just never going to be a man. It doesn't matter. And if you lay down the law, what is she going to do? Is she going to kick your ass? I mean, that's the stand you can take as a man. What are you going to do about it? If you don't like it, you should leave. See, men need to take their power back. That women have been taught to do these things to men, and men have accepted it like they have no choice. You actually do. And yes, women want to be whores, so they will be treated like one. And they become emotionally unstable, and that's not in anyone's best interest, especially if you want to have success in your life at anything. So emotionally unstable women are not healthy. And if any women are watching this and you have a problem with this, I understand, but you tell me what I said that's inaccurate. And I haven't seen any woman come up here on the in the chat and say and tell me I said something that's inaccurate. I haven't seen that on Instagram, and I haven't seen that on YouTube. So clearly, if there are women watching this, you don't have a problem with what I've said either. If you do, it would have been great to hear from you, but I haven't. And if you do, and you were not comfortable to say it while I'm live, leave a comment after I shut this down. So guys, if you haven't smashed that like button, smash it now. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe. I understand some of the things that I'm saying you're saying it's a hard sell, but there's a mindset that men have that needs to be stripped down, like burning the lead off, transforming lead into gold. You've got to burn off these lead properties. Feminists have filled our society with all kinds of philosophies, and there are lots of men who are feminists, even though they say they have no regard and no interest in feminism. There are lots of men in the US who follow feminists. They believe in the divine feminine. They believe in all these things like a queen and a princess and all this stuff. You're going to have to strip that down so you can stand in your own manhood instead of standing in feminism, pretending to be a man. Or you're a man no matter what. But masculinity and manhood are things that you develop. And I've already said it. China sees that that's starting to be missing in their country, and they're going to make sure their boys become masculine. So this is a job for men in the US to make sure as men and boys that we are able to develop the essence of our masculinity, our personhood, which is masculinity. We have the biochemistry, we have the divine right for masculinity, and there's a role and there's a respect that women will have for that no matter what. And I understand we have a court system and all these other things. Women only do what men allow them to do. And if it means men have to stop hiring women, then this is a conversation to have. And there's an intelligent way to do this. So smash the like. Thanks for the super chats, guys. I love the comments. I understand that I'm often asking you to look at things that sounds good on paper, not the easiest to implement. I'd love to talk to you guys about how to unlearn and train out of what's been imposed on us. Yeah, love to have that conversation. So in the meantime, guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe. I always appreciate your support, guys, and have a good evening. And I'll be back soon with another show. Tonight was all about YouTube and chill, all about what happens in and out of the bedroom. And you take care, guys. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.